Hello everyone again, it's Gurenno, and this time I'd like to talk about another GCG deck. It's been my fixation recently. I know I've probably kept you waiting here on this new update for March, and I think I missed February too, but that's alright. The fact I'm doing it now is what really matters. This time we're actually going to be talking about Blue-White Zeta. I'm a big fan of this deck. I really like how large of a pilot Camus becomes. It's like 3-2, level 5. Plus the Zeta's effect to restand itself is really cool. And the Zeta is also really cool mobile suit. So I was really excited to play this deck when it came out. But haven't really been having a lot of success with it until its current iteration, which I'm really happy with now. We'll go through the card by card, looking at the pilots I'm playing, units, bases, and commands in that order. Talk a little bit about where the deck succeeds, its good matchups, some of its bad matchups, and what its game plan kind of looks like. We'll talk a little bit more about the card by card as well as we get through them, mostly the units and the commands. But for now, let's get started. We're playing 4 Camus. He's the main pilot. He's really good, basically at any point in the game once you get to level 5. 3 Emma, basically just to have an extra AU link. Her stats are also pretty good for being level 3. Playing 2 Kigali. She is really interesting because she makes basically all of the units into flex blockers. There's a really interesting interaction with the Nemo where you can pair her with the Nemo on any other turn to make a 3-3, which is really good at breaking bases. And then just pushing. And then playing 2 Suleta as well. Having 2 extra defense on units like the Hyakushiki, or even the Zeta itself, or the Rick Diaz, the blocker, is really crucial for mid to late game. Plus the ability to restand a resource when it attacks lets you use her very aggressively to have resources open for your opponent's turn for things like the commands we're playing, the Siege Ploy and the Unexpected Incident. As far as the units, we're playing as many copies as possible of our 1-drop, the Nemo, as many copies as possible of our Air Master equivalent, the G-Defensor. Very useful with the Zeta ability to rest this instead of the base, which leaves it open for you to also use the Rick Diaz to rest it. Playing 3 copies of that. And then 3 copies of the Strike Rouge, its effect for 1 resource to unrest a blocker, which lets you, for example, pair Kigali with the Nemo for a 3-3, swing base, and then use the Strike Rouge to restand it so that you have blocking available for your next turn. Same idea as with the Rick Diaz, which we're also playing 4 of. It's our blocker lineup here. Same idea, you can, if you have the Rouge in play, you can be aggressive with the Rick Diaz and restand it, so it's not susceptible to getting pinged or attacked on the opponent's turn. We're playing 3 Hyakushiki. It's kind of big, costs a lot. Level 5, there's kind of things, other stuff we want to be doing, like dropping 2 Nemos for a tempo turn, or pairing our pilots, or getting with like the Rick Diaz to clean up the board state. But nonetheless, very big blocker, especially if you have Suleta, getting a repair and a base lets it last quite a while. Plus, if you get to restand this, you basically win the game. Playing 2 Kshatriya Besterung, the repair. Repair 1, not so crucial on this unit since you're mostly using it for the deploy effect to draw 1 unconditionally. We're not playing any Merida, so it's never going to be a link unit, but that's okay. It's basically just there to serve as extra copies of our Zeta Gundam. See, it's the same level and same cost, and gives us something to play on turn 6 for 5 resources that will help us get to our win con sooner, which is, of course, the Zeta. Plus, if we draw any pilots off it, that's good too, or any extra low-level units. And we're maxing out on the Zeta at 4 copies. We got 1 alt art there. I'm looking for more copies. If you have any, please let me know. I don't want to buy them off TCG Player. This unit has a really interesting ability. While it's linked, activate main, so main timing, can't do it in action step, once per turn. So if you have 2 Zetas, you can do it if you have the G-Defensor and a white base out to rest a friendly base and restand the Zeta. I suppose it's the idea is that it goes back to the Argama to refuel or something, or it's like transforming or something, I have no idea. But it's really cool. You can go ahead and swing base with it, and then restand so that it can't get attacked on enemy turn, or you can swing base and then swing into an enemy unit. Usually I find that if we're swinging into an enemy unit, commute isn't big enough to help it live through that attack. So it'll kill whatever it attacks, but it'll probably die as a result, unfortunately. Which is why I find it's best to attack the base and then keep attacking shield turn after turn with it as you're able to. Still a very powerful unit, huge stat line, lots of HP, enough HP, really. As for our bases themselves, we are playing max copies of the Argama. Not being able to receive effect damage, so being immune to breach is huge for this deck, especially if you're being aggressive with your Nemos and you don't have the Strike Rouge out. It's also really nice to be able to avoid ping in general, as that becomes more relevant in the next few sets. And we're playing 2 Archangels. This has a more expensive version of the same effect that's on the Strike Rouge. It's 2 resources instead of 1 to restand a rested blocker. Unfortunately, it makes your blockers, both this and the Rouge, if you use this effect, you can't then attack again with the blocker. But that's okay, because really, you only need a unit to attack once for it to receive its most effectiveness, especially for low-level units. The units like the Zeta that can attack twice that are high level are more of an exception than the rule to the units you'll be restanding. But it does also mean that if you put Kigali onto the Zeta, it gains blocker so that you can restand it using this base or the Rouge. Same as well with the Rick Diaz, or the Nemo, the red Rick Diaz. Oh, it's in the other pile here. Basically all of our units, because we're playing only the 2 blue units, the Besserone. Yeah, the Rick Diaz is already a blocker, and then the red one. The Rouge itself is all, has the effect to restand itself, I believe. Basically the red Rick Diaz, and probably an interesting interaction with the D-Defensor, allowing you to attack with it, restand it, and then rest it again for the Rick Diaz or the Zeta's effect. Small synergies we're all about here. Speaking of small synergies, our command lineup, we're playing not very many of these. Basically just some survivability tools. We're playing 3 Unforeseen Incident. I was playing 4 or 2, and it turned out that 3 seemed to be the most optional, the most optimal. Seeing it at 2, just never saw it. Playing it at 4, I would see 2 every game, and it would break my hand because it's not a unit, which is really unfortunate. We're playing 2 Siege Ploy. This basically rounds out our lineup of 5 commands, 5 defensive commands. Siege Ploy to prevent our shields from taking damage, and Unforeseen Incident to protect our blockers to let them gain maximum efficacy over the turns. These are to help our mid-range game plan. Survivability is the name of the game. Hyakushiki being able to live for 2 turns, or the Rick Diaz, God forbid, being able to live 2 turns, is basically a death sentence for the opponent, because it means you'll be able to restand them and attack on your turn to be as aggressive as possible with your blockers, which is really cool dynamic that I think this deck can facilitate over the purple blocker deck, or like IBO, I think. I think the Grazes are doing some interesting stuff, but they're not doing it in a way that is appealing to me anyways. Like, First Strike, who cares, bro? Get real with that. And the last command we're playing is 1 copy of Show Resolve. I still don't like this card. I think 3 is a lot to pay, but because we're playing so many commands and so many pilots, I think it's probably fine at this point. It's our last card. Basically, being able to draw 2, the chances of drawing into a unit are the highest in this deck, as opposed to any other card. I mean, certainly we're playing a lot of pilots. I believe it's 11. Yeah, 2, 4, 7, yep, 11. I'm playing 11 pilots, and a lot of cards that have burst. Basically all of our pilots are burst pilots, and all of our commands have burst effects as well. So we're basically trying to dig for units, or pairs. If you see command with this, you're probably hosed, honestly. You really basically just want to draw into 1 or 2 Unforeseen Incidents, and maybe a Siege Ploy in your opener. But if you see them in your burst, that's probably better, because that's more unexpected for the opponent, as opposed to being a battle trick that you can just fire off. Where this deck struggles, I think, mainly is against decks that are aiming to drop a bunch of 1/1s and go wide, or 1-cost units and just go wide, because we simply don't have the ability to block more than 1 unit at a time, I think, at this point. If you can get 2 Rick Diaz, the white one on the field, or I guess black on the field, at the same time, that's really good, especially because it has a big defense set of 3 into the 1/1s, the 1 costs. But the Yakushiki is your main line of defense here. Rarely wanting to attack with this unless you know you're going to kill with it, unfortunately. It's kind of just a guy that stands there on your field and does nothing until the opponent attempts to interact with you. Whereas the Rick Diaz, we're playing enough of them, as well as the Kigali package, that we can kind of risk playing this as a tempo offensively. As well as the Strike Rouge allows us to restand our units. Interesting point on this, I was playing 4 or 2, and it felt like 3 was the best ratio to actually see this card and be able to do the combos with it. 3 was too many because it would risk us having to cut like the Zeta or the Kshatriya, which I really didn't want to do. But hopefully we're able to draw into this and see its use. Basically, if you can use this effect twice in a game, I think you basically won. Because it's just 2 extra attacks, basically, that you're getting with the same amount of units, which is insanely efficient, especially all these units we're playing, like the Rick Diaz Red that has 4 damage and can reduce AP, so we can have extra survivability. G-Defensor as well goes up to 4-3 with when it's paired, and can bounce a card, so it's extra tempo when you're paired, when it's linked with Emma, or even I think like 6-4, 6-3 if you're paired with Camille, which is disgusting, but that's kind of a waste of a Camille. You basically want to save Camille for as long as possible until you're able to link him with the Zeta to be able to attack for its maximum attack value with him. Yeah, the +3 on the Zeta is just huge. It's like insurmountable for most units right now. I think like 8-6. Basically kills every unit in the game right now. It's like way overkill on a lot of things, so you basically just want to use it to either trade for other LRs or blow up base in a single hit and restand it, and then let it stay standing so that your opponent can't interact with it. Because once you land the Zeta, unless the opponent has an effect that can attack standing units, they'll be trading into it regardless. If they attack a standing Zeta, but otherwise they have to kind of meat grinder into it and wait for you to either kill the pilot off it, which I'm not seeing played at all. That red 6 cost to kill pilots in command. I'm not really seeing cards that are attacking standing units either. One of the more annoying matchups for this deck is the Age and the Unicorn stuff that forces you to attack their standing units. Basically forces you to waste your Zeta or your Kshatriya into it, which is really annoying. Or even the Shiki. On those cases, because the Shiki is so low cost compared to its stats on level 3, as opposed to being the max like 4 or 5 for its level, we can just kind of wait and keep the Shiki in hand and then play it at a later turn and be totally okay with that, because the Shiki is only ever going to soak up like 1 attack, honestly, before it just gets killed with ping or something, so that the opponent doesn't have to deal with it directly. Or they'll just let you swing out with it, and you'll lose because the Shiki is only gains repair when you have a white base out, which we're playing as many bases as like in Stomach playing, but sometimes you do get a bad shuffle. I guess that's technically another one of this deck's weaknesses, that if you get a really bad shuffle and all your pilots go to the bottom, or all your Nemos go at the bottom, you basically are locked out of playing the game. Unfortunately, it's just one of the caveats of GCG right now. The matchup spreads are a lot more fair, I think, now that we're deep into set 3. But unfortunately, the game still has an issue where, with all of the draw power that's available to you, and the filtering that is available to some decks, still matchups feel like they're being decided by variance more than actual skill, which is really frustrating. Players can do the math and play optimally, but if you have a bad shuffle in your deck, and you get like the wrong order of cards in your burst, or just the wrong sequence of 5 or 6 draws, even with getting an on-curve Valve Resolve or Overflowing Affection, you just aren't playing the same game as your opponent, which is really unfortunate. But with that being said, that is the case for both players in this economy, I guess, in this current meta. So I don't really mind it as much. Knowing that both players are always under this restriction, whether you're going first or second, is kind of fine. Both players are under the same bad RNG. Every deck is susceptible to just drawing unplayable hands, even with the mulligan. And one of the things this deck actually does really well is, because you're playing enough blockers and ways to restand them, this deck can play going first a little bit. I mean, if you elect to go first, or you lose the die roll and you're forced to go first with this deck, I've found that you're basically going third. You're waiting till turn 3 to make any plays. so you are going to lose your EX base immediately, more or less. But that's like okay. The EX base it doesn't have a color, so it's completely useless for any of your unit's effects to like restand themselves or replace or anything. So the faster you can get rid of it, the better. Basically, you want to hope that you get like an Argama in your burst or something. It's really good into decks that really want to build a big unit. Like if we're in the mirror match and we're against a Zeta, we have other tools like Kigali to block it, or Suleta to untap resources to be able to siege ploy, or not siege ploy, to unforeseen incident the Zeta's damage away. Because one of the cool things about unforeseen is that, I can find it after shuffling it in here, is that it doesn't have a level restriction, so that you can use this against units at any level at any point in the game once you've drawn it. Really clutch. Same with our siege ploy, 5 or less HP. This is basically always going to be relevant because even like our big ass guy, the Besserung or the Zeta, they max out at about 5 HP. So you'll always be able to rest a unit. Things that can't rest are ones you kind of don't want to or won't be able to anyways because your opponent will be swinging them first. One of the reasons Siege Ploy is considered really weak, at least in my opinion, is that you can only rest units in action step, so you'll always be attacked once. You have to use the first attack's action step to rest a second unit. You cannot respond to the first attack to rest an attacking unit if that's the first attack your opponent's making. It's incredibly frustrating, and I kind of expect them to make a buff version of Siege Ploy or to alter action timing so that this is more useful, so that you won't be able to attack, but you won't be receiving any attacks. But as long as you have a blocker and a Siege Ploy, you're probably fine. just to be able to fade 2 attacks. Or worst case scenario, you are using Siege Ploy into a deck like the Titans deck, or I don't know who else is doing restand gimmicks. I think 00 is also doing it. You play this into a deck that has the ability to restand their units, and they are forced to use it defensively to overcome your siege ploy after you've rested their unit. So they're forced to then use their ability on their turn to do it, to get in a single attack instead of getting a third attack with 2 units. Really cool card overall. I think the fact that it has a burst effect for its command effect is really nice. The flexibility is the name of the game here as well. Being able to pivot depending on what matchup you're in is really good. To whether or not you want to use your commands offensively or defensively to prevent your opponent from blocking. Like you can use Siege Ploy offensively to attack, and then before blockers, I believe, you can rest their blocker so that they won't be able to suck up the attack. But that really only works if you already have 2 units out and they have like 2 units or whatever. You never want to use Siege Ploy in a situation where you have fewer units than your opponent and they have a blocker up. That's just not going to help you. You can also use Unforeseen Incident offensively to negate damage on a unit that you are attacking. Really useful if you're trying to make a push with the Shiki or, God forbid, a Rick Diaz. But yeah, overall, the deck is really fun. I feel like it's pretty consistent with its ratios, and I'm looking forward to taking it to more locals. I don't think it's quite up to snuff for regional. Doesn't have any ping effects or anything to help you get around really annoying blockers, but that's where Zeta's at, and I think it's probably one of the better iterations of this deck. Until we get new cards in white or blue that facilitate this mid-range game plan of attacking and restanding. I would like to see more commands that can do it, and not just bases or the Strike Rouge exactly. More pilots that have modifying effects like Kigali and Suleta, who are really unique in their niche. Or like Kamiyu, who can buff their units to ungodly amounts of AP. Basically where we're at. If you enjoy the deck profile and you think I need to change anything or have different discussion points, let me know in the comments. Really looking forward to hearing more from the community, getting some feedback from my other players at locals about this deck, and seeing where we can go from here. This deck feels really complete, feels really solid to play, has a positive record with this iteration, which is nice in playtesting anyways. Not on winning table, I will say, not in person, against other decks like Titans and 1 Year War, which are kind of bad, but it is still fun. The best thing is to have a deck that's fun, even if you're losing, in my opinion. That's basically the gist of it. If you have any other questions or want to hear more about the card by card, feel free to go back in the video and rewatch. Otherwise, that'll be it. See you guys in the next profile.